In July 1298, beneath the summer sun of central Scotland, 10,000 Scottish spearmen stand in 4 massive circular formations called Schiltrons. Shields locked, spears bristling outward like steel hedgehogs. They wait. They have defeated English cavalry before. At Stirling Bridge, they crushed a mounted army. They know how to stop charging knights. Their commander, William Wallace, has taught them well. Stay tight, stay disciplined. The horses will break against them like waves against rock. But then comes a sound they have not prepared for, the whisper of 5,000 arrows darkening the sky. The first volley slams into the packed formations. Men drop without enemy hands touching them. The circles cannot move, cannot scatter, cannot answer. For 6 hours, the arrows fall like mechanical rain, tearing through flesh and breaking the unbreakable. This was Falkirk. To understand Falkirk, you must first understand one simple question. What happens when an army designed to stop one kind of attack faces an entirely different weapon they never expected? The Scottish lowlands in 1298 stretch across rolling hills, open fields, and scattered woodlands between Edinburgh and Stirling. This is borderland, neither fully controlled by England nor fully independent. For centuries, Scotland and England exist as separate kingdoms sharing an island. But in 1296, Edward IV of England decides sharing is no longer acceptable. Edward, called Longshanks for his height and Hammer of the Scots for his ambition, believes Scotland should submit to English overlordship. When the Scottish king dies without a clear heir, Edward sees opportunity. He claims the right to choose Scotland's next ruler. He installs a puppet king. He demands Scottish nobles swear fealty to him personally. He treats Scotland not as a neighboring kingdom, but as a rebellious province to be disciplined. The Scottish nobility are divided. Some accept English authority, some resist. But beneath the nobles, something unexpected rises. Commoners who refuse to submit. William Wallace, a minor landowner, becomes the face of this resistance. In 1297, at Stirling Bridge, Wallace leads a Scottish army that destroys an English force by using terrain and timing, letting the English cross a narrow bridge, then attacking when only half their army has made it across. The victory is total. The English commander dies. Edward's reputation suffers. The Scots believe they have found the formula. They believe discipline and terrain can defeat superior numbers and better equipment. They believe they can outlast England through defensive warfare. Wallace believes that if Scotland makes conquest costly enough, Edward will eventually leave them alone. Edward I believes something entirely different. He believes rebellion must be crushed so completely that no one dares repeat it. He believes overwhelming force, properly applied, ends resistance permanently. And after Stirling Bridge, he believes he must personally lead the next campaign. In the summer of 1298, Edward assembles the largest army he has ever brought to Scotland. Approximately 15,000 men, including 3,000 heavy cavalry and 5,000 Welsh longbowmen. The Welsh archers are recent conquests themselves, their homeland subdued by Edward only 15 years earlier. Now they fight for him. The Scots see this as betrayal. Edward sees it as proof that resistance is futile. Wallace knows the English army is coming. He withdraws from occupied towns, burns crops, denies the invaders supplies. He forces Edward to march deeper into hostile territory with lengthening supply lines. It is a war of patience versus power. But patience has limits. Wallace's own army begins to fracture. Scottish nobles distrust the commoner commander. Food runs short. Desertion begins. Wallace realizes he cannot wait forever. Eventually, he must either fight or dissolve. When Edward's scouts locate the Scottish army near Falkirk, the decision crystallizes. Wallace chooses his ground, a slight rise overlooking marshy terrain, with a stream cutting across the approach. He positions his forces and waits. The confrontation neither side wanted, but both expected, is now inevitable. Edward IV prepares for battle on July 22nd with the methodical confidence of a king who has conquered Wales and humiliated Scotland before. His knights armor themselves in steel plates and chainmail. His infantry, spearmen, and crossbowmen form the center. His Welsh longbowmen, 5,000 strong, move with practiced efficiency. Edward does not expect a difficult battle. He expects a demonstration. He expects to break Wallace so thoroughly that Scottish resistance collapses entirely. Wallace understands his constraints with brutal clarity. He cannot match English cavalry in open combat. He cannot match their armor or their training. His army consists primarily of common spearmen, farmers and laborers taught to hold a line. But Wallace knows terrain. He knows formation. And he knows that at Stirling Bridge, tight infantry formations stopped English cavalry cold. So Wallace organizes his 10,000 men into 4 schiltrons, massive circular formations, each containing roughly 2,500 spearmen, standing shoulder to shoulder, spears angled outward in all directions. A schiltron is a mobile fortress, a formation that presents no vulnerable flank, no opening for cavalry to exploit. Between the schiltrons, Wallace positions his few archers and small cavalry units. Behind them, marshy ground limits English maneuver options. Wallace does not plan to attack. He plans to endure. The schiltrons will stop the cavalry. The English will exhaust themselves. Then perhaps the Scots can counterattack. Edward looks at the Scottish formations and sees stubbornness, not strategy. Wallace looks at the English army and believes discipline will be enough. And that quiet miscalculation leads directly to Falkirk. The English army moves across the Scottish lowlands like a steel tide. 15,000 men marching in organized columns create a sound that carries for miles. The rhythmic thud of boots, the metallic clink of armor shifting with each step, the creak of leather and wood, the snorting of 3,000 war horses. Banners fly above the formations, red crosses on white fields, the royal leopards of England, the personal standards of earls and barons. This is not just an army. It is a statement of power. Edward rides at the front with his commanders. His heavy cavalry forms the vanguard, knights mounted on destriers bred for size and aggression, each horse worth more than a farmer earns in a lifetime. Behind them march infantry, English spearmen in padded gambesons, crossbowmen from Gascony, and the Welsh longbowmen who move with quiet discipline. As they approach Falkirk, the terrain becomes less favorable. The ground softens. A stream cuts across the approach, forcing troops to ford or find crossings. Marshy patches slow the cavalry. Edward sees obstacles, not danger. His army has overcome worse. The Scots are visible now on their slight rise, formed into those strange circular formations, waiting. The English do not rush. They organize methodically, positioning cavalry on the flanks, infantry in the center, longbowmen moving to optimal range. Edward gives Wallace time to reconsider. Time to surrender. Wallace does not surrender. Wallace has chosen his position hours before the English arrive. He studies the approach routes, noting where the stream forces crossings, where the marsh slows movement, where the slight elevation gives his formations advantage. The schiltrons are not placed randomly. Each occupies high ground that forces attackers uphill. The gaps between formations are calculated, wide enough that English cavalry cannot simply ride around, narrow enough that Wallace's small reserve forces can shift to support wherever pressure concentrates. Inside each schiltron, the spearmen stand in concentric circles, outer ranks kneeling with spears braced against the ground. inner ranks standing with spears angled over their comrades' shoulders. Every direction bristles with steel points. Orders are simple. Hold formation no matter what. Do not break ranks. Do not pursue. The Schiltron's strength is unity. A single man stepping out creates a gap. A gap allows cavalry through. Between the Schiltrons, Wallace positions his few hundred archers, inadequate compared to English numbers, but enough to harass. His small cavalry force, perhaps 500 light horsemen, waits behind the formations, ready to exploit any opportunity. Wallace walks among the formations, reminding men of Stirling Bridge, reminding them that discipline defeats power, that holding formation is survival. The spearmen believe him. They have seen it work before. Above them, the English army arrives. The Scots watch the banners, the glittering armor, the massive cavalry formations. They know that once those knights charge, survival depends entirely on keeping the Schiltrons intact. No individual heroics, no breaking formation. They wait. The English cavalry advances first, confident that shock and steel will shatter the Scottish formations. Knights lower lances, spur their destriers, and charge across the broken ground toward the Schiltrons. The earth trembles with the weight of 3,000 war horses accelerating. This is the hammer that has broken armies across Europe. Armored men on armored horses, moving with irresistible momentum. The Schiltrons do not flinch. The cavalry crashes into the first formation like a wave hitting a reef. Horses cannot advance into the hedge of spear points. Knights try to ride over, around, through, and find no opening. Spears thrust into horse bellies. Animals scream and collapse. Riders fall into the forest of steel. The outer ring of spearmen hold their ground, braced behind shields, weapons angled to gut any horse that presses forward. The charge breaks. Not the Schiltrons. The cavalry regroups and charges again from a different angle. Same result. The circular formations have no flanks to turn, no rear to exploit. Every approach presents the same bristling hedge. Knights accustomed to breaking infantry lines through sheer terror find themselves helpless against discipline and geometry. Edward watches from a distance, seeing his elite cavalry repulsed. Wallace has created fortresses of men that cannot be broken by conventional means. But Edward has unconventional means. He orders the longbowmen forward. 5,000 Welsh archers move into range, roughly 200 yards from the Schiltrons. They nock arrows with mechanical precision. These are not hunting bows. Welsh longbows stand as tall as men, crafted from yew, requiring years of training to draw properly. They can pierce mail at this distance, and the Schiltrons, packed tight for defense against cavalry, present targets impossible to miss. The first volley releases with a sound like tearing cloth amplified 1,000 times. 3,000 arrows arc into the sky, reach their apex, then plummet into the packed Scottish formations. Men fall. The arrows fall in waves, 6 volleys per minute. 5,000 archers shooting in rotation so the rain never stops. Each archer carries 30 to 40 arrows. The mathematics of massacre are simple. 30,000 arrows in the first 6 minutes alone, falling into formations where every shot finds flesh. The Schiltrons cannot move. Their strength is their formation. But formation makes them stationary targets. The spearmen raise shields overhead, trying to create cover, but Welsh longbows fire with such force that arrows punch through wooden shields and continue into the men below. The front ranks, kneeling with spears braced, cannot raise shields at all. They can only endure. Men scream as arrowheads pierce shoulders, legs, faces. The wounded cannot leave formation without creating gaps. They stay, bleeding, while more arrows fall. Some formations try to contract, tightening circles to reduce exposed area, but this only increases density, making every arrow more likely to hit multiple men as it passes through. The English cavalry, regrouped and waiting, watches Scottish discipline crumble under mechanical slaughter. No heroics required, no charges. Just patient archery turning fortresses of men into killing zones. Wallace sees the disaster unfolding but has no answer. His own archers, numbered in hundreds, cannot match the English volume. His cavalry cannot charge across open ground into English knights without being destroyed. The Schiltrons were designed to stop cavalry, not to endure artillery. And that is what the Longbows are, medieval artillery, raining destruction from beyond spear range. After 2 hours, the first Schiltron breaks. Men flee in scattered groups, abandoning formation, seeking any escape from the arrow storm. The moment they scatter, English cavalry charges. Knights ride down fleeing spearmen, cutting them apart with swords and lances. What was a formation becomes a massacre. The second Schiltron watches their comrades die and makes the same calculation: stay and be shot, or run and be ridden down. Some men break, others hold, believing discipline remains their only chance. The arrows do not care about discipline. They fall without prejudice. Wallace attempts to withdraw the remaining formations in some kind of order, but organized retreat under fire is nearly impossible. The third and fourth Schiltrons begin disintegrating not from direct assault, but from the psychological collapse of watching methodical slaughter continue without any way to strike back. Men drop spears and run, others kneel and pray. Some curl behind shields, hoping randomness will spare them. The English longbowmen continue shooting with professional detachment. They are not angry, they are not vengeful. They are performing a military task, and they perform it with brutal efficiency. By the 6th hour, the arrow barrage slackens, not from mercy, but from depleted supplies. The longbowmen have shot nearly everything they carried. The Schiltrons that dominated the battlefield at dawn are gone, replaced by scattered groups of survivors fleeing toward distant woodlands. Edward releases his cavalry for pursuit. Knights chase down stragglers, cutting them apart without resistance. The Scottish formations that stopped cavalry charges through sheer discipline now die as individuals, run down in open country. Wallace himself escapes with a fraction of his force, riding hard for the forests. Behind him, the field belongs to England. The battlefield at Falkirk on the evening of July 22nd is a monument to asymmetric slaughter. Bodies lie in heaps where the Schiltrons stood, so thick in places that the ground is invisible beneath the dead. Broken spears jut from the earth, shields lie shattered, arrows protrude from corpses like gruesome crops. The English cavalry withdraws, exhausted not from fighting but from pursuit. The infantry never engaged at close range. The longbowmen collect reusable arrows from bodies, a grim harvest. Scottish casualties number between 5 and 10,000, half to 3/4 of Wallace's entire force. English losses are minimal, perhaps 200 men, most of them cavalry wounded in the initial failed charges. The Scots do not counterattack. They cannot. Their formations are destroyed, their commander fled, their army scattered across miles of countryside. Those who survive run north or disappear into forests and villages, abandoning weapons, stripping off anything that identifies them as combatants. The English do not pursue beyond the immediate area. They have proven their point. They hold the field, the victory, and the psychological advantage. Edward establishes camp on the battlefield itself, a statement that Scotland cannot contest. In the days following, news of the disaster spreads. Scottish nobles who supported Wallace begin withdrawing their backing. Edward's demonstration has achieved its purpose. Resistance appears futile when faced with overwhelming force applied without mercy. The battle lasted approximately 6 hours. The arrow barrage alone consumed perhaps 4. 6 hours to destroy an army that had humiliated England just 1 year earlier. Word of Falkirk spreads across Scotland within days and throughout Europe within weeks. For the Scottish resistance, the defeat is catastrophic not just militarily, but psychologically. Wallace's reputation, built on Stirling Bridge, shatters. Scottish nobles question whether common leadership can ever succeed. Wallace himself resigns as Guardian of Scotland within months, his authority broken. For Edward I, Falkirk validates his strategy of overwhelming force. It demonstrates that Scottish infantry, no matter how disciplined, cannot withstand English combined arms, cavalry, infantry, and especially longbowmen working in coordination. The victory cements Edward's control over southern Scotland and demoralizes organized resistance for years. But Falkirk's impact extends far beyond Scotland. The battle becomes a military case study in how missile weapons can neutralize defensive formations. Medieval warfare has long emphasized the supremacy of heavy cavalry, with infantry serving as support or garrison troops. Falkirk demonstrates that massed archery can stop cavalry and destroy infantry without risking close combat. The English longbow, already used in Wales, becomes the foundation of English military doctrine for the next century and a half. At Crécy in 1346, English longbowmen will slaughter French knights using tactics refined at Falkirk. At Poitiers in 1356 and Agincourt in 1415, the pattern repeats. Defensive positions held by disciplined infantry, supported by overwhelming archery, superiority defeating numerically larger forces. Falkirk also proves the limitations of static defense. The schiltron is brilliant against cavalry, but helpless against ranged attack. This lesson echoes through military history. Every defensive innovation eventually meets an offensive counter, and armies that fail to adapt lose decisively. For Scotland, Falkirk does not end resistance, it transforms it. Large-scale battles become unthinkable. Instead, Scottish resistance adopts guerrilla warfare, raiding, ambush, and scorched earth tactics. Robert the Bruce, who may have fought at Falkirk, learns from Wallace's mistake. When Bruce defeats the English at Bannockburn in 1314, he chooses terrain that neutralizes longbows and forces England to fight on Scottish terms. The psychological impact persists longest. Falkirk teaches that technological advantage, in this case the Welsh longbow in English service, can overcome numerical parity and tactical skill. It demonstrates that morale, discipline, and courage are insufficient when facing enemies who can kill from beyond effective response range. Today, the fields near Falkirk are quiet farmland. Nothing marks where the Schiltrons stood or where thousands died under arrow storms. The tactical specifics fade into academic history. But Falkirk is remembered not for who won or who lost, but for what it proves, that defensive formations designed for one threat are vulnerable to unexpected attack vectors, that technological advantage applied without mercy can neutralize numerical equality, and that the gap between brilliant tactics and flawed strategy can be measured in thousands of dead. Falkirk demonstrates that success in one battle creates expectations that enemies will exploit in the next. The Scots won at Stirling Bridge through terrain and timing against cavalry. They prepared for Falkirk, expecting more cavalry. They received arrows instead. The battle proves that static defense, no matter how disciplined, requires active offense to survive. The Schiltrons could stop charges, but could not advance under fire. They were fortresses that could not retreat, and could not silence the artillery destroying them. Most fundamentally, Falkirk reveals the cruel mathematics of asymmetric warfare. When one side can kill without being killed in return, battles become executions dressed as combat. Falkirk is not the story of English superiority or Scottish failure. It is the story of how battlefield innovation renders yesterday's perfect tactics obsolete, how armies must adapt or die, and how the same discipline that wins one war can lose the next if enemies change the rules. And that is why it still matters.